Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, September 5th, 2021. My name is Teri Hunter, and I'm here with your weekly messages from the angels for traversing the transits. So I want to wait and give people a chance to enter the room. Oh, I like that. I see a thumbs up. Hello, hello. Anybody out there? Say hi. Hi, Louise. Hi, Vasila. I think I said that right. Welcome this morning. So I want to start talking a little bit about this new moon that's happening tomorrow here in the Pacific, September 6th. It may be the 7th where you are, depending upon where you are in the world. And it's at 14 degrees Virgo, and it will be trining Uranus and Taurus. And I thought this was so interesting for a couple of reasons. We are heading into what I think is going to be quite an interesting end of the year. Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter will all be going direct in October, which means they will be starting their storm period in September. Various times. We also have a Mercury retrograde at the end of the month. And I bring all of this up because I think this new moon in Virgo gives us an opportunity to prepare. And I want to say it this way. Here in the United States, as we enter the fall, we go into what they call cold and flu season. And clearly, we've been going through a flu season for almost 2 years now. And I think this new moon in Virgo representing health, and trining Taurus, which represents food and what we eat, gives us an opportunity to really start to look at 1 degree of change. Let's say you start your day and you have 2 cups of coffee. Maybe with this Virgo new moon, you start to think about just 1 cup of coffee. And I say this because I believe that as we start to pay attention to what we're putting in our system, in the tank that runs the whole show, we'll start to represent how powerful the body can be when we fuel it instead of feed it. Good morning. Jenny O posted up. Small Wildflowers, just call me C. Katerina, Zihan, CC Pops. What I think is happening, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I believe that the main theme of this year is Uranus squaring Saturn. So we're going to see old structures being renovated and people revolting against oppression and depression and rules that don't make sense anymore. So as we look at some of the things that are being implemented, suggested, thrust upon us, this idea of taking this new moon and really looking at how the 6th house and what the 6th house of Virgo represents. So it represents our physical health. It also represents our service to others. It represents our pets, and it represents our work. And I was thinking about this because Virgo is also the opposite sign from Pisces. And Pisces is where I dream. And often we think about dreaming as sleep dreaming. And this morning it was hitting me of the young person who's sitting in their bedroom by themselves, singing in front of the mirror and contemplating their dreams in life and what they want to birth in the world. You know, the 12th house is the house that is behind us, behind the house of self. It's, I think, a house where we feel most shy about expressing to the outside world for fear of imprisonment or fear of criticism. And then we go to that 6th house because sometimes Virgo can be a little bit critical or practical or sometimes too earthbound. So now we have this trine with Taurus. And what if we allow ourselves to dream a little bit bigger and we pay attention to how the vessel supports the dream? And we start to just do 1% of change. I think you guys know that I'm going to be 62 in October, and I'm not really good about discipline. I'm good for a few days, and then I kind of sail off into wanting French fries and potato chips. My point is that I used to really criticize myself for not being perfect. And I think now it's just about continuing to get back on track. And as I've been paying attention to just the smallest degree of change within my own eating habits, I see my body starting to react to that. And I think that this new moon gives us an opportunity to take a hold of our own power through our body and through observing how much power we are, I want to say, giving away. Because, lots of us depend on fast things, being able to grab something to eat. And it's just those little choices. Let's say you run through the drive-through. You could grab a burger or you could grab a salad. If the 1 degree of change is grabbing the salad, and you have ranch dressing on it, who cares? It was the 1 degree of change. I feel like as we start to move this direction, we'll start to feel ourselves and trust ourselves in a way that will support us as we move through the rest of this year. I feel a lot of fear coming. I feel a lot of people feeling very vulnerable. And that's why I'm bringing this up, because I think this new moon gives us an opportunity to do something in a practical way that makes us feel influential in our own lives. So that's, I think, super important. We also have an interesting aspect happening on the day of the new moon, which is Venus trining Jupiter in Aquarius. And this will also bring in an opportunity to sort of look at how we are filtering the things that Venus and Jupiter represent. Jupiter representing our beliefs, and Venus rules the second house. So Venus rules food, because food gives comfort. Food is something we bond over. Food is something that makes us feel at home. So I really, really want to encourage us, because this is the thing. I think as we pay attention to this Virgo moon, we can go into the month of October as we see these very powerful planets going forward again, to stand in a way that holds space for harmony and compromise and peace. Because I feel like the world may be very unpeaceful. So, and then I also want to comment that Venus will be squaring Pluto on the day of the new moon. So Pluto, I've been reading about Pluto. I bought a book on Pluto by Stephen Forrester, and I'm really starting to embrace some of these, what we consider more challenging planets, and what they have to offer on the flip side of the destruction, the death, and the rebirth. Because again, as I have made 1% of change within my own physical body and my physical way of being, I find that feeling the effects of it are making me more trusting of the Pluto dynamic, the Pluto's transformation. And I think I've mentioned to you guys that having Pluto squaring my personal sun, my personal rising sign, and going into squaring my Mars. It will be squaring my Mars for the next couple of years. Glory be. I could look at that and be really afraid. Am I going to die of a heart attack? Am I going to blah, blah, blah? No. I feel like this is really an opportunity to start to live the higher vibrations of these planets, of starting to see the duality of them more, and seeing how the challenging aspects of the planet actually offer us an opportunity to be reborn, and reborn in a way that serves others. And I think it starts with this Virgo new moon. I'm not saying it hasn't started already, but this is when I go to the idea of our health, of that's a way to be of service to others. And I'm not trying to encourage you all to do things and eat cardboard and not enjoy food anymore, but just really starting to see how food affects your mood. That's the new moon. I think I've been telling you guys for a while now that I think the moon is a much more powerful planet than we give it credit for, because it moves so quickly around in the month. It is truly our emotional body, and we walk out into the world and manifest our experiences based on how we feel. So when we feel stressed and we feel, pushed upon, we get into traffic and we're like, "Arr!" So this is where I'm going with this conscious thought, this idea of how you connect the vessel and the emotional body and see how it all kind of, there's this old game called Operator, and it's like this bone's connected to that bone and blah, blah, blah. And I want to offer this too as a final story, and then I'm going to go into the readings for the day. I have been in much therapy throughout my many years on the planet, and I have studied spirituality forever and a day. And I had a therapist, Deborah Bubar, God bless her. I have no idea what happened to her, but sending her love this woman so much. She one day said to me, "Teri, you've mentioned that you enjoy potato chips." And I'm like, "Oh gosh, yeah, I'm a total salty. I love salt." She goes, "Do you ever notice how it makes your fingers feel stiff and, almost you feel a little swollen?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I noticed that." She said, "Imagine what it's doing to your brain." And so I'm just wanting to bring up the idea of that as you guys pay attention to the ripple effect, then you have an opportunity to empower yourselves. And if indeed you make a choice to eat a whole bag of potato chips and let the salt do its thing, at least okay, I did this, and this might be why and contributing to why I feel that way. And CC Pups, I agree. Praying over your food is another way to infuse it with amazingly loving energy. We forget about that. It is Juan's birthday on the 8th, I believe. And I forgot about you, Small Wildflowers, because I believe you just had a birthday at the end of August. Was it August 27th? So I want to wish both of Batman and Robin and Batman, Wonder Woman, and her trusty sidekick the happy birthdays to everybody. Okay. I'm going to go into the readings now, and we're going to start as usual backwards with Pisces and work our way towards Aries. Oh, on the 25th. Happy birthday. I hope you enjoyed it. It's that season. Okay, guys. Just call me. Enjoy your coffee. It's just more about playing this little game with yourself, about seeing how your body is responding. Because if your body does not have any issues, fine. You may not get jittery. You may not get cranky. I'm thinking about the things that we do on a more habitual basis that haven't served us. I still am enjoying a little bit of coffee in the morning, but I've kind of been infusing. Recently, I bought some blueberry juice, and I have to tell you, it was so good. It was better than wine. That's what I thought. And I thought, oh, well, this is a great substitute for the wine I used to enjoy having. So anyway, it's just about paying attention so that we, as we pay attention to the vessel, can be more influential versus feeling so vulnerable to outside influences. That's what I'm getting at. I almost had an anxiety attack the other day, you guys. I was watching the news. Oh my God. And it started with, the exodus of Afghanistan, then it went into the numbers for COVID, then it went into the floods in New York, and my heart started to so much that it freaked me out. So again, this is where I'm starting to pay attention to how do I align myself to a harmonious, cooperative, empowering, uplifting energy so that can be the service that my ripple effect. And that's what I think this new moon in Virgo has to offer us. So rather than going into a critical place and feeling so disempowered, we have an opportunity through small awarenesses to feel more safe and secure. Okay. All right. Really going to start now. I haven't seen Juan come in the room, and I'm wondering if that Louisiana weather isn't still acting up. So let's send him some good vibes. I'm pretty sure that there's still craziness going on. I had to go off the news because I don't like it when my heart starts to race. Okay. Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I really, honestly, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm tired this week. And I just have felt so, I don't know, it's been very weird. That's all I can say. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, because I keep looking at the transits and they're not crazy. Or at least not, I mean, they're no crazier than they've been. Don't know why this week got me so much. All right, here we go. Pisces. Our first angel is Ariel. The second is Caressa. The third is Francesca. And the final is Adriana. So as I go into the Pisces and I start thinking about the 12th house, and I think about the idea that it's I dream, and it's the things that we do, not the sexual things we do. We sleep in the 12th house. They're things we do in private as a single person. And I can't help but think of the teenager who's dancing in front of the mirror with the brush microphone, pretending to be a pop star. And I feel like maybe this is something that, as we start to look at this, I just got chills everywhere, this new moon in Virgo giving us an opportunity to really look at the cooperation of these accesses that, the 6th and the 12th house have some sort of cooperative energy in their opposition, as does the 5th and 11th, etc., etc. So Pisces, as you look at the idea of how do I dream, and is the shadow side of Pisces, the house of troubles, because I can only dream to a certain place and then I give up. No giving up. All right. So we have Ariel being joined by the serpent. We have Caressa being joined by the fear card. We have Francesca being joined by the dragon, and Adriana being joined by the hawk. Okay. So Ariel talks about new psychic and spiritual experiences changing the way we view ourselves and others. This to me feels like awareness. It feels like a consciousness of understanding. And also at the same time, I feel like this community and the people that watch Lotta's channels and channels like this, of this nature, are really looking about not just seeking guidance, but also wanting to feel their own power, feeling the power of manifestation. It's as if the soul is rising up through the physical and asking to truly be expressed. And that's what I think Ariel is talking about here. And so as you allow Pisces, this new moon, to illuminate not only the healing that you have already done, but also the opportunity to start to live this version of yourself, the version of yourself that says, I have worked hard, and now am I sitting in the benefit of that work, or am I still looking up the hill? Because in your opportunity or your obstacle is Caressa saying that you've reached the end of a life cycle, then a new chapter is beginning. And I think that new chapter is how you're processing fear. The older I get and the more I have stepped into the higher vibrations of my Aries rising, the more I understand the truth of how fear actually empowers me. It's as if sometimes when I'm scared and then I bet on myself, what if I don't just give my power away to someone else, my health even to someone else, but look and say, how can I grab onto that? Because I feel like that's what's being offered. Pisces, you're spiritual by nature. And now as you actually look at the idea that you're living this, You're not reaching for it as much as you used to. Your awareness is making you live a newer version of yourself and being able to put that chapter where it belongs, in a place that empowers you, because it is a learning experience. Because what you've learned, Pisces, is what you visualize. Where you put your focus is where your power and strength come from. So this is the thing. It's so easy to inadvertently focus in on a problem. It's so easy to focus in on all of the dark sides of things. And everything has its duality. And so for Pisces, Adriana says she's leading you to the answers to your prayers because you're learning to pull your sight up. Pull it up and to see the signs and the omens that you are actually living the version of yourself that you've been reaching for. You are actually, last night I was sitting here and I spent just a few minutes. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't turn on, it wasn't actually night, it was late afternoon. And I didn't put on any music. I had the front door open and I was just listening to the sounds around me. I was listening to people talking as they were walking down to the beach. I was stretching my ears to hear the ocean because I'm so blessed to be able to hear the ocean. And last night, as I lifted my blinds, I like to open my blinds and open the windows at night and let the place air out. And the sky was clear and I could see Jupiter and I could see Mars. And I just felt like being in this moment, being aware of a bigger picture of things. There's a bigger picture. And my job is not to reach for what hasn't been done, but to honor what has been done. So that's what I think is going on. Pisces, honor yourself. Start to allow that dream time that the 12th house represents to be the dreams that you are excited about, and to allow this new moon to illuminate the practicality of your dreams and let the way you fuel yourself through your food. Again, Taurus, trining the new moon, that will really help support that dream into existence. Tanya, I go backwards. I start at Pisces and I work my way towards Aries. We are now moving on to Aquarius. 11 signs are remaining. We've just started hibiscus. Okay. All right, let's go. Here we go. And it will help if anybody wants to take a little note of the timestamps. I know it's not easy for me. I always kind of drift around, but I'll try to be more succinct. So I'm going on to Aquarius. We have 111 people in the room. Aquarius is our 11th house. That's a lot of ones. All right. And if you're new to watching this live stream, I like you to, your moon, I think is super important, but rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And stelliums are 4 or more planets in one sign or house, which really indicates a strong focus of your soul within this lifetime. So, Aquarius, our first angel is Adriana. The second is Rochelle. The third is Ariel. And the final is Yvonne. Good morning, Nikki. It's good to see you. Hi, Robin. I didn't say hi to Hibiscus. Hi, Shelly. Just call me C. Whoops. Oh, let's see what fell on the ground. All right. So Adriana is going to be joined by the Risk card. Rochelle's being joined by the Dragon. Ariel's being joined by the Trust card. And Yvonne is being joined by the Earth Fairy. Well, this is very interesting. Okay, so I want to offer this for my Aquariuses. You are innovative. You think outside the box. You've broken the box, frankly. And I feel like this idea that Uranus has, Uranus rules Aquarius, or Uranus makes us feel nervous. I want to offer this. As I look at this, I feel like Aquarius, if there's any weird rumblings in your belly of anxiety, I think that might be your intuition asking you to slow down and make sure that the path you're walking down is authentic to what you want, authentic to that. We talk about Virgo representing slavery. And it doesn't mean literally slavery from 1865. We're talking about being slaves to jobs, employers, employment dynamics where we are not serving ourselves. So Aquarius, this is about creating a win-win, because I believe that this new moon is going to illuminate an opportunity for you to move in a direction that's more authentic to something you can't see with your eyes. And you're going to have to risk everything, trusting a deeper picture of yourself. This is something I have inadvertently practiced my whole life. No offense to you humans out there, but I don't really trust humans that much. I just think sometimes they make sketchy decisions. So every time I've come up against something really scary in my life, I've had to ask myself how my inner body reacts to it, because your power, Aquarius, is going to lie in that deeper inner knowing, in the inner knowing that actually doesn't agree with the herd, doesn't agree with the consensus. It doesn't necessarily agree with the collective. And while you do represent the collective, it is through your heart chakra that you are most influential and powerful to the collective, because here is Ariel saying new psychic and spiritual experiences are changing the way you view yourself and others. And I think this is your inner knowing. I think this is where, on some level, as you look at this new moons are always, the darkest, the sky is its darkest. And it's where we plant new seeds. And these new seeds are to trust that inner knowing in a deeper way. And while Aquarius represents rebellion, I don't think this is about rebellion or when I say rebellion, I mean, I don't think it's about rebelling against something outside of myself. I feel like if I thought about that from the Aquarius viewpoint, I'd realize that if I try to rebel against another human, I just get caught up in the minutia of defending my point, but rather risking being maybe even slightly more quiet with my words and trusting my heart to lead the way, because Spirit is saying that they are bringing me experiences that will empower me. And it is through my own vulnerability that I start to bring these aspects into the earth plane. I was also talking about how this new moon in Virgo is making a trine aspect to Uranus and Taurus. This earth fairy represents our physical health. And in some respects, this vulnerability that you may feel as Spirit is leading you, maybe telling you something that is not aligned with the consensus. And this is where I want to sort of go back to the beginning of this broadcast, because as you pay attention to your physical body and what supports its highest vibration versus putting it into a challenging vibration, you'll start to feel a sense of that Aquarian independence and that trust that lets you actually be the revolutionary, that lets you move against the tide. But in this case, it's not about fighting the tide. It's about almost being quiet so that you can allow others to be illuminated by your experience. The human so often gets caught up in defending their position. They don't think they're trying to be right, but they're so busy trying to be heard that they inadvertently get caught up in this cycle of defense and wanting to be validated. So Aquarius, as you risk trusting an inner knowing, trusting a deeper dynamic, you will start to feel not only a sense of vulnerability, but also a sense of safety. Because the vulnerability is that you're different, and honoring that you may feel a little more isolated at first. That's where I'm putting that. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to be happier about it. Because again, we're moving into October. We're moving into the end of the year. The main theme of 2021 is the square between Uranus and Saturn. And it's rewriting the rules so that they serve us more, so that they create a win-win. So don't try to defend your position to others this week. That's what I'm saying. Let them just have their point of view. You may find that to be more powerful. All right. Here we go on to our Capricorns. Stellium in Taurus in the 12th house. That is powerful, I think. Really powerful. Because again, I want to offer this as the 12th house. I go into these meditations and I talk to Spirit about how, I don't like a box. I don't like a tight box. And so if I always go into the 12th house and think it's the house of troubles, because oftentimes when we're in trouble, we seek a spiritual path. But the I dream is not just I dream in my sleep. It's not just this place of darkness, but this place of almost like a cocoon, and a place where we allow ourselves to express ourselves in a way that we don't have to worry about the criticism that our opposing sign sometimes perpetrates. So give yourself that opportunity. And if you've got, Karine, a 12th house Taurus stellium, then the Venusian dynamic of your, all of what Taurus represents in the Venusian way. What makes you feel at home? What makes you feel cozy? What makes you feel loved? What makes you feel secure? Our dreams will make us feel secure. All right, here we go. On to our Capricorn, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Athena. The second is Chantal, the angel of romance. The third is Mystique. And the final is Maya. I'm missing Juan, and I'm wondering if he has electricity. I haven't heard from him. He didn't text me or anything. Oh, guys, I go backwards. So those of you that are new to the show, I'm on my third sign, Capricorn, and I'm going to work my way towards Aries, which will be last. I did this like 2 years ago on a Mercury retrograde just because everybody else always goes the other way. And I felt like the last 3 or 4 signs we needed balance. That's my Libra sun. All right, here we go. Capricorn, Athena is being joined by the restriction card. Chantal is being joined by the novice. Mystique is being joined by the queen. And Maya is being joined by the joy card. Okay. So we have Pluto in Capricorn right now. So those of you that are late born Capricorns, and those of you that have significant planets in Cancer, Aries, Libra at the later degrees, are absolutely feeling this Pluto transit. And I want to offer it this way because Pluto really doesn't want to kill you. It wants to rip away anything that doesn't serve you. And so like the phoenix, you get an opportunity to rise from the ashes. So Capricorn, right now we see this restricted energy on your power. And I think it might be because this new moon is offering you an opportunity to really look at where you are operating from a place of habit of this is what I have to do. This is what is expected of me. This is what I'm required to do. Because I think that Capricorn and Saturn, again, wants to be rewritten. Saturn representing the father. And instead of this abusive guy that wants to just make us miserable, I think Saturn and all the planets are starting to say, rise to what is important to you. Because Saturn will continue to always ask you to work hard. Saturn will always say, I really don't care if you're happy about it. Just do the work. So do the work in the lane you love. because that's what the issue is. Okay. So I want to offer you, if you're feeling a restriction of your own power, are you operating from a place where you love? Because this is the novice and it's unstable new beginnings. And while Chantal will represent romance, I don't think this is romance. I think that this new moon is an opportunity to put, this is a new moon in an earth sign, and it is trining Uranus in an earth sign, offering liberation from old structures that don't serve you anymore. So now Mystique is saying, Capricorn, keep charging ahead. Keep moving ahead, because you're learning to receive. You're learning that, while it's great to have this focus and this discipline and this endurance for moving forward, it's important to have it in what you love. What do you love? What do you want? Because Capricorn, one of your life paths is to learn how to experience joy. And then to take all those beautiful dynamics of leadership and of all creating a structure that's focused around the individual enjoying their life path. The people, we tend to have envy for people who appear to be doing what's important to them, and we watch them thrive. Throughout the generations, there have been people who have literally broken the rules all the time, regardless of race, regardless of color. And that is something that they did as individual souls. So what I think this new moon is offering for Capricorn is a bit of an education in how to further what brings you joy. And I want to offer it this way, because if you're a Capricorn that has been in a dutiful energy for a long time, you're not going to be able to just flip a switch. And that's what I think is going to happen in October, as the planet that rules our belief systems, Jupiter, moves forward, as Saturn, your ruling planet, moves forward in Aquarius, and then Pluto is going to move forward in Capricorn. So I really think that this new moon is giving Capricorn an opportunity to, rather than perpetrate old behaviors or actions, it's a time to slow those down and say, do they still serve me? Do they still serve me to operate in this way? Because it may be just a little, again, one degree of change. So maybe this restriction in power isn't a complete restriction, but a partial restriction, because what you've been doing inadvertently is moving forward in a way that didn't serve you. And now it's time to start to think about what you love. I think I mentioned last week in the broadcast that I had a situation with an old dynamic in my life, and it did exactly what it always does, which creates an upset. And initially, I went into a certain way of feeling about it. And then I had this epiphany that was a habitual way of feeling. And I really didn't feel that way anymore. I felt relief. So, Capricorn, examine your feelings a little bit. And if indeed you're shutting off your feelings in some way, is that because you've been taught to be stoic and dutiful to somebody else's story? And now it's your story. All right, let's go on to our Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Uncle Dan, did you change your name to Joe Jordan? I don't understand the question, Val. Does the Capricorn for moon 2? This is a Virgo new moon. It's at I believe it's at 14 degrees. Where's my calendar? Yes, it's at 14 degrees Virgo, making a trine to Uranus in Taurus. This is a very favorable aspect, but it's also in one way going to illuminate something, I think, in regards to your health and how you're treating your body. What's your vibration? Good morning, Scott. So, Val, I absolutely think it's important to hear the angel's advice for your moon sign, because our moon, it represents our emotional body and our intuitive body. And worry breaks up our intuition. It interrupts it. All right, here we go. On to our Sagittarius' rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Oh, that's nice. So you're putting me on the TV. That scares me. It makes my face too big. I like it to be small at this stage. All right, here we go. Welcome, Sharon. Welcome, Calculated Healing, Sierra. Who else? Maria. Thank you, Val. All right, here we go. Sagittarius, our first angel is Caressa. The second is Archangel Gabriel. The third is Crystal. And the final is Indriel. Ooh. Here we go, Sag. I can't help but double dash. I never know what to call you, but you're so adorable. I see you wrote lots of repeated vicious cycles. I absolutely agree that that's happening right now. And it feels like this is where we in our consciousness get to say, I'm not participating in that anymore because I actually don't feel that way anymore. And I realize that when I go into those cycles, I'm just interrupting where I want to go. I'm being distracted from it. And that might be the true challenge, is not to let yourself get distracted by all this outside noise. All right, Caressa is being joined by the Joy card, Sagittarius. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the Protection card. Crystal's being joined by the Fire Fairy. And Indriel's being joined by the Love card. Wow, this is nice. So here we go into this, overall, September is a fairly benign month. It's going to get a little bit more tumultuous as we head into the stormy seas of October, November, and December, when we see the exact third square between Saturn and Uranus. So, Sagittarius, I believe that as your planet Jupiter goes into its storm period, because I don't have all the dates, but each one of those planets, meaning Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter, are all going to start their storm period within the next couple of weeks, if they haven't already, because how slow they are. And then we have the Mercury retrograde as well. So what do we do in the storm period? We know that the planets become more powerful. They become almost what appears to be stationed in the sky, like they're beaming up, going, hey, pay attention to me. Sagittarius, I say all of this because now is a time to focus in on what brings you joy. And I want to say it this way, because in these tumultuous times, it may be hard to find that. I told you guys I was watching the news the other day, and it literally within 5 seconds started to give me an anxiety attack, and I don't even get anxiety attacks. So what I realized in that moment is that if I'm going to walk through this chapter of my own life and history, if I focus in on, oh my God, these are the worst of times, these are so challenging, the world's just falling apart, hell in a handbag, it's really not true. The world has always felt like a hell in a handbag. The world has always been tumultuous in one way or another. So if I'm going to be really influential in my life, I'm going to start to focus in on what brings me joy. And these are not huge things. Yesterday, I laid on the floor, the dog laid next to me, and I was reading my book on Pluto. And I thought, this is amazing. I love this. I really feel like I want to engage all of you to just take this moment, Sagittarius and everybody else, just to sit and go, I love this thing I'm eating, or, oh, I love this moment of relaxation. Because as you start to pay attention to your own self-talk, that's what Archangel Gabriel is talking about right here, is communication. And we have the Protection card. And I think that this is not protection because we need to suit up for some sort of military engagement or assault on us, but rather that we start to really pay attention to how our self-talk insulates us and isolates us from the collective fear or the collective experience. Because For my Sagittariuses, which really rule these bigger concepts. Who am I? What am I? What is the point of me? Because in the angel's advice is Crystal saying, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can't see. And here's the fire fairy, which is the spark of creativity. It's this idea of creative action. And the creative action is knowing that if we really, you guys know I'm like become a history buff. So as I look back over the last 200 or so years, which is, what was it when Saturn and Pluto met? It was the first time in the 84 years when they met in Capricorn. We're going through yet another cycle of breaking down structures that at maybe one point served the human experience, but it doesn't anymore. So this is where I'm going, is that, while it's disruptive, people can't just come into your house and pluck you out of your house anymore. I mean, generally, some places in the world it's a little scarier than others. So as we connect to that, and then we connect to, what if I just focus on the smallest things that bring me joy and excitement? Could I actually be part of this vibration that changes the world? And I want to offer it this way, because this is not about trying to make other people feel loving or feel joyful. This is about you just taking care of you, and then letting that send out a ripple effect that's almost like an invitation. I always get this feeling that if happy people are kind of protected from cranky people, not only vibrationally, but they also just sort of look at the cranky person and go, I don't want to go there. And if enough of us do that, or purport that being energy, this becomes the dominant energy, and the laws of attraction kick in, and they start to bring, at least within our own personal experiences, that opportunity to experience joy. Lucky is my dog, Lucky. For those of you that aren't familiar with him, he is honestly the happiest little guy in the world. And he is the greatest service to me, because when I look at him, I'm reminded constantly that I have a choice to focus in on what brings me joy, or to focus in on what gives me anxiety. That's why I turn the news off. So I may not be the most informed person all the time. That might be for my better health. Okay, let's go on to our Scorpios, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Those energy vampires. They usually think that they're helping us, but sometimes we just have to lovingly not try to change them. Let them be the vampires they are, and then move on to our little werewolf den. Welcome, Lucy Rose. Welcome, Kareem. I said hi to Shelley. Maria Johnson, good to see you. I just talked about your comment, but then I didn't say hi to you. Okay, here we go. What did Carlos Santana say? He's an amazing person. All right, here we go. The sun's not conjunct Neptune. Oh, maybe in your natal chart, Sierra. That must be what you're saying. Okay, I get it. Like, the sun's not conjunct. All right, here we go. Scorpio. Our first angel is Mystique. Got it. The second is Archangel Uriel. The third is Maya. And the final is Bridget. Thank you, Shelley. It's been so cool here and so humid that blow drying it has been an exercise in frizz. Okay, here we go. Mystique for my Scorpios is being joined by the Novice. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Water Fairy. Maya is being joined by the Risk card. And Bridget is being joined by Love. All right, so this is what I want to say about my Scorpios. You're ruled by two planets that are considered a little challenging. Your Modern day ruler is Pluto. And a lot of people freak out about Pluto. And then in ancient times, it's Mars. And I think it's for my Scorpios, this is a time to really start to embrace the more mystical side of yourself. That's the way I want to put it, because mystique is coming out of the dark. And the card itself says to keep charging ahead, to expect miraculous solutions. And here's the unstable new beginning of the represented by the novice. And I think that this is about trusting the intuitions that you have and trusting the transformation that Pluto may be offering you. I can't help but look at this and think to myself that some of you out there are experiencing Pluto in all sorts of ways, some in opposition, some in square, some in conjunction. And while this could be very, very unsettling, it's mostly unsettling for the unconscious, because in the opportunity, the obstacle is anger and frustration. And then there's the water fairy. And the water fairy is about my emotions. And I think on some level, if Scorpio is angry or frustrated, it may be because rather than trusting what you know that lies in the dark, your intuition, you're ignoring something. Because Maya is the card of schooling and education, and there's the risk card. And what if, for some reason, Scorpio is thinking that if I trust my intuition, I lose? If I trust my intuition, love will go away, or I'll experience something. Scorpio gets a bad rap. You know, people talk about their stinger. Scorpios, oh, you're a Scorpio. Scorpio's amazing. Scorpio pulls out their stinger because when you try to tell Scorpio that the world is flat, they're like, look, buddy, it ain't flat. This world is round. No, it's flat. No, it's round. Stop trying to convince the people that the world is round. That's where I think Scorpio is getting tripped up. Sometimes we just have to trust something bigger than ourselves to manage the situation, because Bridget is really asking you to look deeper and to look deeper into love. And I don't think this is outside love. I think this is self-love. I think this is about trusting a bigger picture of how you operate in the world. I told you guys that I've had, a disruption, for lack of a better term. And there is a part of me that has had to literally go into a space that has pushed out everything that feels like or has been called love in my life, and it's all fake. It's all fake, 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 because none of it has to do with me. And I don't want to villainize anybody, but if I'm going to feel whole and complete, I can't live in a halfway world. So neither can Scorpio. You have to trust that the inner knowing, if you stand in relation to it, if you stand in cooperation with your inner knowing, you will find that your emotional body will actually teach you that it was worth the risk. And you will experience love from a much more deep and authentic place, not only from yourself, but from another human. I really believe that. And I think that trying to settle for anything less will make Scorpio a little bit nutty. So let's take this now and let's look at the idea that Scorpio is the opposite house of Taurus. And Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, is making a trine aspect to Virgo. So I want to offer it this way. If Scorpio starts to think of their intuition as actually the ground you walk on, trusting that, Scorpio's a natural detective. It feels and sees what you can't see with your eyes. And I think sometimes how you get tripped up is because you're like, look, I know this. And people are like, I don't see that. I don't see that. That ain't happening. So now it's time for you to rewrite that. Don't try to make anyone see anything. Just allow yourself to trust this so that you can calm down any of the frustrations you're feeling. A lot of people are finding themselves up against dynamics that are feeling forced upon them. And I feel like Scorpio on some level. I want to put it this way. I agree, Sierra. The water moon feels very intense right now. And I feel like, or not the water moon, but because the moon is in an earth sign right now, but I feel like everybody's feeling this ripple effect of duality. That's the way I want to put it. And I guess before I go into Libra, what I want to say for Scorpio is that trust a deeper knowing that may not be obvious in the real world yet, but it will reveal itself as you trust it. That's why I went to Scorpio being what you don't see, and Taurus wanting to be able to see everything. So as we allow the Trine to do its magic, Scorpio will have some sort of validation coming through of what they already knew on the inside. I hope that made sense. Oh. All right, on to Libra. Welcome, Stephanie Ann, Kentucky homegirl. Good to see you in the room. I think you're new here. All right, here we go. You know, logic, Lucy Rose, I think is really, in some ways, logic may not be logical right now because it's based on an old structure that I think Uranus is asking to liberate. That's why I keep going down to these intuitive hits, because what we believe is the platform of our manifestation, but also how we process things. So it really doesn't matter if everybody agrees on the same thing. It matters more what they believe about it. So when you believe that something is beneficial to you, you will draw in dynamics that will support the benefit of it. If you have a wobble about whether that thing is beneficial or not, you will draw in an experience that brings you a back and forth results. And if indeed you think that thing that everybody else is doing is actually terrible for you, you will experience it that way. So trusting a bigger picture and allowing the disruption to settle down and then taking your steps from there. All right, here we go. Libra, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Gigi, I'll get to Leo. I swear I just talk too much. I just been like this since the day I was born. I was blah, 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 blah. Thoughts do create your reality, Sierra. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the more that we connect to that, the more we understand how important our thoughts are. And the thoughts of worry do not serve us. All right. Libra. Our first angel is Caressa. The second is Layla. The third is Archangel Raphael. And the final is Rochelle. Okay, here we go. Caressa is being joined, Libra, by the Bee card. Layla is being joined by the Love card. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Butterfly. And Rochelle is being joined by the Cat. This is very interesting to me. You know, Libra is the sign of marriage, partnership, cooperation, compromise, because it's always about other people. It's a very social sign. And I feel like right now there is an interesting dynamic because Libra sometimes, and this is where my Aries rising always messed with me as a kid, because I would read Libra and I'm like, that doesn't sound like me. But what I think is important, Libra, for you to pay attention to your own energy right now. Your diplomacy and your willingness to be fair inadvertently may be clouding the truth of your own heart. And I say that because Caressa says you're at the end of a life cycle, that new happiness awaits you. And I think that this is really about being able to connect with what your particular attitude, disposition, and viewpoint is, and to give your viewpoint credit. Because when I look at Layla and I see the love card, I could talk about partnerships and going into love, but it almost feels much bigger than that right now. It feels like this last few months of the year, there is an energy of, I'm so tired of the angry people. I'm so tired of the pointing of fingers. This is good. This is bad. This is right. This is wrong. And I feel like Libra has been talking to God and the angels. Can't we just all get along? Can't we all realize that we just want to feel loved and valued? And I think that what Spirit is saying for Libra, I'm going to cough, pardon me, is that there is an opportunity as we go into this darker period. And I say darker period because I think that the more we get into the later part of the year and the storm period of these three planets moving forward, and meaning Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter, and then the idea of Uranus making that square, there's an illumination had that will come through the Plutonian darkness. And what I think Libra has to do on some level is to have healthy boundaries with the rest of the world. Sometimes Libra gets, they get the rap for being indecisive, for being overly cooperative, and actually giving their power away. And I feel like this is a time when Libra gets an opportunity to trust their heart. And rather than being overly cooperative, I'm just more concerned about my own, how I show up. I'm a Libra sun, which I think is the most small aspect of my personality, but it's still strong. And I sometimes realize that if I'm going to be of service to others, then walking into a situation where I would be too accommodating to a dynamic I don't believe in is not serving me or anybody else. And that's what I think is going on here. I think that this particular, I can almost think of this new moon, because the new moon is the darkest period of the moon, is offering Libra illumination of a bigger picture of the planet and what's happening here. And sometimes we need to go into a very challenging dynamic to rise up into a place of compassion. If we as humans think about the last 10 or 20 years, we can look at, the tsunami in Thailand created a world dynamic of compassion. The earthquake in Haiti, I don't remember the years of these things, but sometimes these big dynamics, while they seem very sad on the outside, they bring in an opportunity for compassion. So what I'm saying for Libra is right now, this is for you to truly be happy. I think you need to focus in on what's important for you and not get too outside of yourself, because this is about victory, and victory comes from your own perception. Your perception, knowing that sometimes the darkness serves the light. And that's what's happening right now on this planet. So I also want to say that Archangel Raphael represents our physical healing. So I'm going to refer back to what I talked about at the beginning of this broadcast and what we can do about that 1 degree of change. Because through the caterpillar's process of transformation, we'll find a sense of peace. And that peace comes of having healthy boundaries from what is old, stagnant, and too rigid in its fear. People who are very fearful, and it's very easy to be right now, will defend their fear. They will defend their position. And if they don't get validation, they will actually start to become accusatory. And they're not doing it consciously to be disruptive as much as they need validation. So if we start validating ourselves, it might make it easier to validate others, even when they don't agree with us. I have a sister, and she probably thinks that her Libra sister is tough, but I think she might think that because her Libra sister has a Taurus moon and an Aries rising. All right, here we go. On to our Virgos. This is your moon. It's going to happen in your first house of self. Opportunity to truly liberate yourself from the critical viewpoint. All right, Adriana is in our foundational position. Opal is in our opportunity or our obstacle. Teresa is in the angel's advice, and Merlina is in the final position. You know, one of the challenging sides of Virgo is getting caught up in too much thinking, too much looking at the practical world as it has been structured for you when it's been laid out. I almost think of Virgo. I used to have a friend who has since moved back east, but this person was funny because whenever they learned something, once it was learned a certain way, they couldn't shift. Even when they were driving, they couldn't like veer off and go right to, make a quicker route. They had to go the direction they know. And I say this all because Virgo, I feel like there's an opportunity for you to kind of get out of a practical mindset maybe and allowing yourself to be led more by spirit. And in order to do that, there's a childlike innocence that gets to be purported. And Virgo tends to be such a grown-up in its own energy. How can I serve others? How can I make things better? And so in doing so, that feels too grown up. And in some ways, it is undermining the bigger picture of what you want. It's actually, and I'm going to the final position, creating confusion for Virgo. So I want to offer Virgo this opportunity to go into their heart chakra to excavate the truth of what is important to them. Because here we have, so our foundational position is Adriana leading you to the answers to your prayers and pulling your sight up above this little, this, because, when we get into the idea of being of service and we start to focus in on how can I make other things better, inadvertently, Virgo could foster and nurture somebody else's imbalance and completely ignore what they need for themselves. Okay. And I say nurture and balance because they're being too much of service to another person. Because in our opportunity and or our obstacle is the child energy of Opal. And this letting go card, this is always going to be let it go from the movie Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. And what I think this is about, Virgo, this new moon, is allowing you to stop worrying about everybody else and worry more about yourself. And are you happy? And of being of service to yourself and to your deeper truth. And realizing not only will that being of service to yourself raise your vibration into a place of happiness or more happiness, it will also inadvertently trickle into all the other dynamics that the house represents. Your health will feel better. Your sense of patience with other people, and the challenge about Virgo is that they strive so much for perfection that they don't understand sometimes how fabulous a flaw really is. The resources that a challenge or a flaw or what appears to be out of balance provides for us. So that's what I think is going on with this new moon. I also want to say that I think that for some of my Virgos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums, and I'm going to really hit the moon part, think about what you're eating. If you're eating emotionally or you're eating in a way that is serving your wallet, like you're going to the market and you're buying this because it's cheaper than something else, maybe it's time to start to spend a little bit more money on the more, either quality or the thing that's going to help your vibration, and start to put yourself in a position of priority. Because I do think this is about taking better care of the vessel so that the vessel can support the mind, and then the mind can support the experience. A deeper truth. Okay, that's it. Let's go on to our Leos. All right. Sending you love, small wildflowers. All right, here we go. Leo, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Give it a good shuffle. All right. Our first angel is Merlina. The second is Archangel Michael. The third is Oceana. And the final is Astera. Wow. All right, here we go. Merlina's being joined by the frog for Leo. Archangel Michael's being joined by the swan. Oceana's being joined by the high priestess. And Astera's being joined by the movement card. The first thing I thought when I started to tune into Leo was that I feel like so conflicted, like almost getting back and forth input. Merlina talks about research, about digging deeper into a situation and consulting experts. And then I have the frog, which is the releasing of emotional baggage and the cleaning of the house. And I feel like this isn't about going to another human at all. The house, the cleaning of the house is the mind. The mind is the house here. And in order to release emotional baggage, there has to be an awareness, or there gets to be an awareness of the pattern that gets imprinted upon the brain that then becomes our reality. And this is why I think Leo may be confused right now, because there's an imprint that's being put on us and has been put on us for a long time. So I'm going to tell a quick story. Thank you for your patience, everybody. But it directly relates to what I'm trying to talk about with this reading. I watch television while I do my art. I listen to it and the commercials come on and this guy starts saying, I have my mental health under control. I feel better. But now I have involuntary facial movements and hand movements. And it goes into this whole drug commercial about how I now, need this drug to manage in coordination with my mental health drugs. My point is this is creating confusion. There's too much input. The TV, one solution leads to a problem, leads to another solution, which leads to another problem, and blah, 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 blah. That's where I'm going with this. So go into your heart chakra. Go into your own mind. You will not find the answer outside of yourself. It's not going to be there. But everybody in the physical world will tell you, yes, you need to listen to someone else, because Archangel Michael is asking Leo, which rules the heart chakra, which rules the most pleasurable experiences on this planet, and is ruled by the sun of leader, and the sun is leadership. This is where the transformation comes. And Archangel Michael is asking Leo to have the courage to dig deeper into their inner knowing, because you will find the right answer on the inner knowing, the answer that works for you, not the whole world, just you. Because Oceana in the Angel's Advice is telling you to trust your inner knowing, to swim up through your emotional body. And the High Priestess represents my connection to the angelic realm, my the connection to my oversoul, to the bigger part of what I am and who I am. Since I was a little girl, there are certain things that I have looked at and just were freaked out. There used to be a brand called Shasta Cola. Okay. Terrible, tasted terrible. And while I like Coca-Cola, there was always this intuitive knowing, spirit nagging, don't drink soda. Don't drink soda. And then I get into my 20s and they talk about how if you drop a penny in a Coke can and leave it there for 24 hours, it cleans all the yucky off the penny. I'm getting it now. Spirit is saying something you're putting in is not conducive for the body's greatest and highest good. I'm not talking necessarily, although Virgo rules health, I'm talking about in general for Leo to trust a bigger picture. And if indeed you're having a wobble on your trust, then just sit back and let Spirit give you an opportunity to experience something on an intuitive level that will confirm. Because in the in the final position for Leo is Astera saying to reach for your dream. Reach to the stars with your dreams and desires and don't compromise. And here is the movement card. I don't think this is about movement outside yourself as much as it's trusting a bigger picture of what you know on the inside. I have worked for a variety of different types of doctors. And one of the things I learned about a doctor is that they're not all created equal. Some are very well educated and continue to educate themselves, and some don't. So while these people have an opportunity to serve me in ways that support me, it is also my job on an intuitive level to work in coordination with them and to discern their advice. That's where I'm going. Leo, this is an opportunity for this new moon to help you become more trusting of your heart chakra. Because one of the shadow sides of a Leo rising, especially, is, can I trust my heart? Can I trust my heart? So, offering yourself an opportunity to not just jump into action. This is about sitting back a little bit and allowing, the frog represents prosperity. And prosperity comes as I don't jump into always trying to look outside myself for an answer that's already on the inside of me. All right, on to our Cancers. I had to think for a second. All morning long, I kept expecting to get a text from Small Wildflowers or Juan saying that one of them would not be here today. We know Small is here, so I'm hoping that Juan is okay and Louisiana storms are not keeping him in a compromised place. So let's send some good love to him. All right, here we go. On to our There's a quote from Benjamin Franklin that used to be up on the wall in this chiropractor's office that I worked for. And it said something to the effect of, in the future, medicine will be food. So I started this whole broadcast talking about the trine between Uranus in Taurus, which represents food, and Virgo, which represents health, where our new moon is. So one little percentage of change, meaning is what I'm putting in my mouth, is what I'm drinking serving me, serving where I want to be and where what I want to experience. All right, here we go for our little crabs. Here we go. Our first angel is Archangel Raphael, the angel of healing, physical healing. Caresses in the opportunity or the obstacle. Archangel Michael is in the angel's advice. And finally, we have Omega, the angel of victory. Ooh, Max, You have a Cancer stellium, very intuitive young man, very nurturing and loving young man. And I wonder, do you actually eat crab? If I took you to Red Lobster, would you have crab? Okay, maybe Juan's power is out. All right, here we go. Archangel Raphael is joined by the Love card, my Cancers. Caressa is being joined by the King. Archangel Michael is being joined by the Swan. And Omega is being joined by the Perception card. Okay, so here we go. Archangel Raphael is I just got chills everywhere. The Archangel of Healing, and there is the Love card. And I want to offer it this way because I don't think that this is love outside of my little crabs. I think that this is actually sort of, may sound a little bit corny, but I feel like there's going to be epiphanies regarding the various levels and the shades of love. Okay. If you ever go to a paint store and you want to go look at blue paint and there's like 25 different colors of blue, I think there's the same thing about love. And I feel like Archangel Raphael is offering a healing, which for me is really a reconciliation of the varying colors of a situation. And sometimes when I get into the darker colors, the ones that feel more disruptive, they offer me epiphanies that lead me to greater depths of self-love. Because I believe that now is a time that is just and fair. It's time on some level for Cancer to realize that self-nurturing is nurturing others. And I feel like Caressa talks about the end of a life cycle, and the King, while it could represent male energy, it represents things that are just and fair. And I want to offer this for my Cancers because there is a part of me that feels like trusting your intuitions feels a little scary right now, feels a little like I'm unsure. And Archangel Michael is asking you to have the courage to truly trust it, because there will be transformation that happens. And the transformation feels a lot like it has to do with me as a Cancer becoming aware of my focus and aware of the percentage of my focus, because here's the Perception card and the Victory card. Okay. So the Perception card to me, okay, I'm going to interrupt myself. I'm going to tell you right now, my body, my physical body has never felt more healthy. This situation that's been going on in the world has obviously been motivating. But before it started in 2019, Spirit was starting to give me evidence and give me information that would help support my body feel stronger. And I feel like this is part of what's going on for Cancer, is you've been getting information, and the information is that it's just and fair right now for you to go through a transformation of trusting a bigger picture of your inner knowing versus too much outside input, because your victory in all ways will come through your perception. So one of the things I've said is that I feel healthy. I feel and I know how to identify within my own physical being when I am supporting that dynamic and when I'm not. And that's what I think is going on for Cancer right now. Your physical health will come from not just loving other people, but from loving things from inspired energies and inspired actions, and to really allow for the closing of a chapter that is not just or fair, that may have been even not just or fair to you, where more was coming out than was coming in for you. Because now is a time to allow and to have the courage for this transformation. Surrender to it. Because sometimes Cancer can be scared, and Cancer can do the crab crawl. It'll go like this. And so this is an opportunity for you to actually receive love from the universe as you surrender to a bigger picture, and then see how the universe brings situations into your world that lets you know you're valued and loved. That's where I'm going to put it. Okay. Oh, it's such an important time to listen to our bodies and to be able to differentiate between what has been a habitual way of I gave up coffee for a while. I have not given it up. I went back to it, but when I gave it up, I'd gone to tea, and the amount of caffeine was such a difference that when I went back to coffee, I felt the heart palpitations. And did I plug away and keep having the coffee until the heart palpitations went away? Yeah. This is what I'm talking about, is differentiating. All right. Here we go on to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Agreed, Maria. Agreed. And it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy, some frivolity, but it also means an awareness to that all sends a vibration. So I want to offer this. When you are enjoying something that may be quote unquote not good for you, if you have guilt about it, you might as well just kind of put it on the side. But if you're going to do it, then enjoy it all the way, because the vibration of joy will in some ways neutralize any negative effects. All right, here we go. Gemini, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, here we go. Layla is our first angel. Grace and Antoinette is in the opportunity or the obstacle. Desiree is in the angel's advice. And Archangel Michael is in the final position. All right. Joining Layla is the Goblin. Joining Grace and Antoinette is the Novice. Joining Desiree is the Truth. And joining Archangel Michael is the Swan again. Okay, so one of Gemini's rather, having a Gemini influence, especially a large Gemini influence in your life path, has something to do with the twins. Duality, being able to see both sides of a situation. And when we look at Layla and the Goblin, there could be a little bit of Gemini that is edging God out, and it's time to reconnect with a bigger, your over soul versus just your mental dynamic. I don't want to diminish the mental process, but I think that during this new moon tomorrow, we have a square between Venus and Pluto tomorrow during this moon. And I think that this is an opportunity for Gemini to reevaluate how you find value within yourself. Because I think feels a little bit like you aren't valuing yourself. And Layla's saying it's time to spend a little bit of time with a bigger part of yourself, the part of yourself that is beyond this physical experience. Because Grace and Antoinette represents compassion, and I think that's compassion for the ego. And here's the unstable new beginning. So let me offer this. As I've walked through life, I know that fear lives inside my ego. I know that when I get scared, my ego will remind me of all the reasons I have to be scared, all the reasons I have to trust the darker side. And then you turn on the news, and boy, the news is going to support that. Gemini, I think this is really about deciphering the difference between what is serving your highest and greatest good and what is diminishing it, what is fueling fear and anxiety. Because now is a time to have compassion for yourself as you allow yourself the privilege of a new beginning. And the new beginning is being able to decipher between the conditions that you're experiencing in the outside world and the truth inside of the bigger part of yourself. Because Archangel Michael is asking you to have the courage to give more life to your intuitions, to give more life to the process of your intuitive being. when you go into scientific worlds, everybody will tell you that this world is vibrational. Even the solid table that I'm sitting at is just a bunch of molecules vibrating in a dense way that appears solid. So this new moon in the sign of Virgo, which is your sister sign, ruled by Mercury, is giving you an opportunity to look at how you're processing the mercurial dynamic of your brain. And I say that because of the trine with Taurus, there could be this, you're used to something, and the Taurian trine is making you feel like that's dependable. That's a sense of security. But is it truly a sense of security? And when you liberate yourself into a more intuitive knowing, you will trust the path more succinctly. You will see how the wobble in sometimes supports you, how sometimes being in the conditions that seem unfavorable illuminate a deeper truth. And I have to go back to that dynamic because that I referenced earlier about this disruption. Gemini rules our siblings, rules our teammates, our workmates, our communities. When I had a disruption in that dynamic, it illuminated an evolution I'd had that I didn't realize. When I initially went through the disruption, my habit was to feel bad. When I took a moment and really assessed the situation, I realized I had a different feeling about it. And so the wobble served to identify that I had evolved into a place of feeling actually at peace with the dynamic and was willing to let it sit where it needed to be, which is in the out spheres of my life. Out, bye-bye. All right, let's go on to Taurus. It really was, but I think, Lucy Rose, that is also a vibrational dynamic, a vibration of how do I want to process this situation in relation to how the collective is processing it. We could say that some people benefited because they had plexiglass companies, or they had, these dynamics, but most of us, I think, benefited because we got to make choices about, do I feel powerful in this situation or do I feel disempowered? I feel really empowered I've learned so much about what works for my body and what doesn't. I've learned that I can still enjoy a glass of wine if I want to, but I don't really have a craving for it that much anymore. I don't enjoy it the same way. So it's really helped. Lucy Rose, frequency and vibration are everything. All right, here we go. Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. We have Oceana in the foundational position, Teresa in the opportunity or the obstacle, Archangel Uriel in the angel's advice, and Celeste is in the final position. Oceana is being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. Teresa is being joined by the raven. Archangel Uriel is being joined by Merlin. And Celeste is being joined by the wealth card. Well, this is very interesting to me. The birth and the rebirth card is always, it's very Platonian in some ways. It's always about giving birth to an idea and a situation, and then having on some level to revisit my energetic platform for that creation. For the decades, I would go into a store or go into a dating situation, and in the back of my mind, I really did not ask myself if it was something I liked. I inadvertently would assess whether or not the people in my life would approve of the couch I bought, the boy I was dating, the blah, 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 whatever it was. And it took me a long time to unravel that and to realize that I had been operating on looking for other people's approval. So, and I say this because for Taurus, Oceana says to now take action. You're in touch with your truth, and that's what's going to offer you a new story, a new birth, a new beginning. And I want to offer it this way because Venus is your ruling planet, and Venus wants you in some ways to open up not just to the creature comforts that are in the material world, but to acknowledge the creature comforts that you need in the interior world. And so it is time for Taurus to stop worrying about everybody else. Because, and I say it this way because we live in a world where we're pack animals, and we want the people that we love and the people that surround us in our everyday lives to approve of us, to validate us, to feel our worthiness, and we see our worthiness in their eyes. And I feel like when I look at Archangel Uriel talking about unforgiveness and anger and frustration, then there's Merlin saying you have an opportunity to turn that around, but it's through the challenge of looking for balance, of caring a little bit more about how you feel about things and how they look on the outside. And that could be a little bit of a shadow side for Taurus, because in the final position is Celeste offering us a shift, and there's the harmonious wealth card. Now, some of you may actually get a new job. Some of you may move to a new place, but I always think of Celeste as a shift in the way I'm thinking that serves me in a way that is more uplifting and authentic. Because wherever you put my physical body, I'm there. And what I believe is how I'm going to take my actions. So, as Oceana says, you're in touch with your truth. Take action on that. It's offering you a rebirth. What has been going on inside of Taurus for the last, 4 or 5 years and a few more years to go? Uranus transiting your sign, offering you liberation. So my moon is at 9 degrees Taurus. And as Uranus went back and forth on my moon, it brought up a lot of stuff. And at the same time, I had Pluto transiting, or squaring, I should say, my sun, my rising sign. And it really gave me an opportunity to look at my emotional body and how I'd been operating, and if it was mirroring my own evolution, or if somehow I kept going back to an old version of myself and measuring my financial success, my happiness on that old scale. So I feel like this is very, very powerful, especially anybody who has any planets around 14 degrees of Taurus right now. So if indeed you have Venus in Taurus, if you have any of those personal planet, Mars, etc., there's an opportunity for liberation in this moment. And the liberation comes not from the outside, but from your own mind being flexible enough to get out of a place where you need security, and you know on an intuitive level that you create security. So there you go. Well, Stephanie, I would have to tell you that that's very Taurian and very Venusian to be a chef and to nurture others with your food. And I love being nurtured by food. Okay, on to our final sign, Aries, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. All right, here we go. Well, I do think of it as Venusian because when you do Venus things, they're Venusian. All right, here we go, Aries. All right, Maria, join me, my Aries. I love double Aries. I love Aries. Here we go. All right. Aries, our first angel is Seraphina. The second is Ariel. The third is Serena. And the final is Archangel Gabriel. Okay, I'm going to completely go sideways for Aries, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the new moon, but I think that there's something happening this week, or not this week, long-term transit going on through Aries, and that's Chiron. Seraphine is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Ariel's being joined by the Joy card. Serena's being joined by the Dog. And Archangel Gabriel's being joined by the Love card. So, Aries, so much opportunity for transformation for you. Aries moon, stelliums. Oh my goodness. If you have an Aries stellium, surrender a little bit to the transformation, because Chiron, the wounded healer, has been transiting Aries. It's going to go through and touch whatever planets are in Aries, either in opposition, conjunction, or in square. And this is not about feeling pulled under, but about being allowed to be liberated and allowed to look at where illusion is fostering a wound. Because Seraphina is the Seraphina is the angel of happy changes to the family. And here's the Lady of the Lake, which represents courage, aka Aries, truth, aka Aries. And here's a storm brewing. And I feel like in some respects, if you look closely at the Lady of the Lake, she is holding the sword very loosely. She's not gripping it with a tight fist. And yet she's going through an emotional storm and a mental storm. I feel as if on some level for my Aries, paying attention to what's important to you at a deep level. And rather than trying to convince others that it's valid, it's about allowing yourself the privilege of the rewrite, how can I say it? I don't want to look at, I feel like Chiron really represents a balancing act. That's how I want to put it. It's almost as if the soul chooses certain things in its chart so that it can balance that and not move past it, but rather integrate it as a tool that benefits versus something that pulls us under. Because Seraphina is offering this happy change, but it's about digging deeper into a truth. And sometimes Aries contributes to their own crap, okay? And so now, I say that lovingly, here's the Joy card and Ariel offering you opportunities for new psychic and spiritual experiences to bring you to a greater place of joy and abundance. And I want to offer this too, because part of this dynamic, let's say you have a 10th house Aries, all right? And I know if it's your rising sign, it's going to be first house, but let's just say your sun, 10th house. This could have to do with your career and an opportunity to liberate yourself from doing things that you don't find enjoyable, because the angels are asking you to trust that if you do what you love, then you are going to be abundant, and not just in money, but in resources, so that you can feel a sense of trust, a sense of not only intention as you move forward, but that the universe is supporting that intention. So it sort of offers you an opportunity to calm the Mars energy from being too aggressive to knowing how to be assertive. Because in the final position is the Love card and Archangel Gabriel. And here I want to make this Gemini. I don't think this is about communications, but how you're running your everyday life, how you're making your money, how you're operating. And as you get really real with what's true and important to you, then even if you've been perpetrating a certain path, the realization that the path may have expired and your willingness to at least emotionally first go into a new lane and then allow spirit to bring in resources and people and situations that support the change. When I was in my mid-40s, I started my career working in Hollywood. I worked on TV shows with all sorts of cool people. I got to meet George Clooney and all sorts of, I could name a ton of people. Jennifer Aniston. And yet the whole time I was really so into spirituality. I was so into studying past lives and this and that, but it didn't seem really cool to the outside world. So I kept telling people I was going to be one thing. But when I got real with myself and started playing to what was true to me, I started to find so much more joy in my everyday life. And then spirit started to support me with the money I needed to be who I am, to be the pioneer, to be the courageous Aries rising that will step out on a path of unsuredness, but know that I have my own resources, because now I love my everyday life. And that's what I think this whole transit for the last few years that's been going on, the idea that we all incarnated when Pluto went into Capricorn, and it's going to blow up all those old structures that don't work for us anymore. All of them, from government to the way we educate ourselves, the way we heal our bodies. And if we don't surrender in a way of giving up our power to the shift, but rather trusting a bigger picture of it, and then we align to that picture as individuals, then the story will move much more efficiently. So Aries, give yourself permission on this new moon to start to really think about what is the deeper truth for you. How do you, the sixth house of Virgo is your employment. It is how you make your money, allowing this new moon to plant the seeds of something that will be more authentic to your truth. And then rather than trying to figure out how to charge ahead, your job is to sit back and allow spirit to lead you, and then use your bravery to make the steps when you get that inspired action. Okay. Love is the answer, but love is sometimes interruptive. Sometimes love says no to imbalance, and it has to sort of sit in the uncomfortable place of letting that imbalance wobble until it slows down. Okay, that's it for me for this week. I want to thank everyone for showing up. I want to thank all you lovely souls in this chat and watching this broadcast, both live and in replay. I thank you for being instruments of balance as you walk through your week. And I would say prepare, because we're going to walk into more opportunities for growth coming up as the year winds up. So sending lots of love to you guys, and sending lots of love to small wildflowers. I hope you had a wonderful birthday, and sending love to Juan wherever he is today. May he be well and safe and watched over by God and the angels. Bye, everybody. Peace out for this week. See you next week, 11 Pacific.